All right, guys, we're going to do something a little different today. So we're going to bounce around this passage just a tiny bit because I want to have just one video on verses 5 through 14. So today you're going to be reading Matthew 6, verses 1 through 4, and then jump and read verses 16 through 18 as well. So go ahead and do that. Come back in a minute. So in both of the passages that we read today, in both of those verse sections, Jesus is teaching about how we practice our faith. And what he's getting at is he's wanting us to ensure that as we do our faith, as we live it out, we're not meant to be self-serving in the way that we do it, but instead we're supposed to be focused on obeying God and giving him the glory in the things that we do. And the Christian faith is not meant to just be us living our lives, getting through year after year, just pacifying our sins and worrying only about ourselves. But instead, as we're here on this earth, we're supposed to be building God's kingdom. We're supposed to be making this world a better place. It should be a better place because we as Christians exist and we as a church exist. And so we're supposed to be having an impact on the world around us. And part of that is the Bible's call for us to help the needy. And we certainly know that there are the needy around us. We serve at homeless shelters, we serve at food kitchens, clothing closets, all of these things. But Jesus warns that there is a dangerous temptation that comes along with giving this kind of help. And that temptation is one of pride or self-glorifying when others see the works that we're doing and they praise us for them. And we're all too aware of such a temptation. You know, we naturally like to brag. We like to let others know the good things that we've done so that they can pat us on the back and praise us and tell us good job. And evidently in Jesus's day, some of the wealthy people would make a big pronouncement or make a big to-do about their generosity, and they would try to draw a crowd before that they would help the poor. And Jesus says that these people already got their reward, which was their praise from the peers. But these kind of rewards are quite quickly fleeting. They may only last a minute or two, but Jesus says that's their reward in full. Instead, Jesus says that his followers shouldn't be helping people with the intent of others seeing and praising them, but instead they should be doing their best to simply help people in secret. And they're supposed to be helping people simply to help them, to show God's love for them. And when they do this in secret, when they do it with the purpose of not receiving praise, not putting the intention on them, but instead glorifying God, Jesus says they'll be rewarded greatly by the Father. And then when we skip down to that second passage, Jesus warns of a pretty similar temptation when fasting. And if you don't know, fasting is a practice of giving something up in order to focus on one's relationship with God. Back in Jesus's time, this would have likely been food, water, drinks, stuff like that for a time. But in our day, it can be pretty much anything that we give up. It can be sugary foods and desserts. It can be technology. It can be video games, social media. It can still be food and drink. It's basically just anything that we give up in order to spend more time on our relationship with God and to focus more on our relationship with God. But once again, Jesus says there were some people that saw this as an opportunity to draw praise from those around them. And so when these people would start a fast, they would put on ratty and tattered clothing, and they would take mud and dirt and smear it on their faces to make themselves look downcast. And maybe they would ruffle their hair up a little bit or these things in order to draw attention to themselves. And then they would be like, "Oh, Brother Samuel, you're so devout and always fasting, and I wish I had faith like you," or whatever. And so Jesus was once again saying that when these people do such a thing, they've already received their reward, which was the praise of those around them. And so as Jesus says, in order to fast properly, you shouldn't be trying to make it intentionally obvious. Instead, you should be keeping your fast between you and God, with that direct purpose of relying on God more. Just like how Jesus out in the wilderness, he said time and time again that he was reliant on God during those times. Even when he had the opportunity to get food in a supernatural way, he said, you know what? The purpose of the fast is that we don't rely on bread alone, but we rely on God. And both of these passages have a lot of repetition in them, and that's, as we study our Bibles, that's something to look out for, because when the Bible repeats something, it means it's worth repeating. And so as Jesus says, those who self-glorify already got their reward, he repeats that time and time again. And when he says the person that does it in secret with the right intentions is rewarded by the Father, that repetition's intentional as well. So here's some takeaways, or here would be my takeaway. I would ask myself, when we do good things, what is our purpose for doing them? If you stay after practice and help clean up pads, or you help pick up trash, or you help clean up the equipment, what is your purpose in doing so? Are you just trying to be helpful and just trying to show godly love to your coaches? Or are you hoping that your other players on your team and your coaches will take notice so that you get better standing on the team? Or maybe you get a better position, or you end up on first string. If you give food to a homeless person or help meet the need of someone that's needy, what is your purpose in doing it? Are you trying to follow the biblical commands to provide for those who don't have? Or are you just wanting to be able to take a picture of you with this person and post it up on your socials later so that you can get likes and praise for people for what you've done? If you're helping an elderly person at the church, are you doing so because you want to glorify God and help your elders? Or are you just doing it because you know your parents will be proud of you and maybe they take you out for ice cream after? So this is, when we see passages like this, we need to ask ourselves, and we got to keep ourselves in check to make sure that we're not letting pride swell up in our hearts, that we don't have itching ears that just want to hear praise for our actions all the time, and we're not just trying to get a pat on the back and a well done, and that's it. So instead, we're supposed to check our actions and make sure that we're doing them with the right intent, which is namely to glorify God and obey him and make the world a better place.